Hello, everyone out there in streaming land on Twitch. Happy Saturday, Data Day. I'm very excited to be here. It's been a little while. Hello, Jay Haluska. Thank you for being with me. Like I said, very excited to be here because today I'm going to do some first-time live demonstration for code from my book. Never before demonstrated live. Very exciting. I'll explain a little bit more why once I get going. But for right now, I'm going to dive right in, get started. Let's see if this would oblige. Right. Intro. We're going to do a quick summary of the customer features or customer metrics that are saved into our database, because last stream I calculated a bunch of event-based features and I did a detailed quality assurance check on a single feature. And I'm gonna right now quickly check all the features to partly demonstrate the technique and also to just catch everyone up from what happened last time. So last week, just to give a brief overview, not last week, it's been actually more than a month. I think it was last year because it was in December, right? That was I should say last month, which was last year, 2024. I did feature engineering in the database. We had an event table, which is where we had sort of big data of everything that every account did. And then we ran aggregations using SQL to save what I call metrics. And it's kind of a measurement of the customer over time. So what we're going to do right now really quick is summarize the metrics with a listing from the book, chapter 3, listing 8. So let's actually go to some code, which is pretty much where we want to be. Whoops, it's in my other window right now, but here we go. Here's the code, and let's get to the right listing. Not even open. 3.8, metric coverage. I'll start out by running it, and let's see. 3.8. Let's go. And what it does is two things. The main query, as you can see here, is just a big group by on the metric table, which are all of the all the customer metrics we've calculated. We're doing average, min, max, things like that. But there's also a common table expression that comes first, which does the count of the number of accounts in the entire period. And this is using the subscription table. It looks like the query has already completed, as you might have noticed. So this just prints out what was executed, and it's going to save to a local file, in this case, a file called metric coverage. And the reason I call it metric coverage, as will become clear in a moment, is because it checks how many accounts actually have the metric. So it's like what percentage are covered. So here's the result I just got out. Make it big so everyone can see. So we have the metric name, and I've got the metric name ID. This is the count of customers with the metric from my count star in the aggregation. And this is just joining with the total number of accounts. And now I can see here the percentage of accounts that have a non-zero value of the metric. And you can see that ranges from, well, some of them have pretty low accounts. I can put in some formatting. So you can see a few things. Meetings and schedule meetings are only used by about a third of the accounts. Searches only 77% of the accounts. But most of these other metrics have in the 90% up to the 99% of accounts per month. And this is just a good, useful summary after you've been calculating a bunch of metrics. Again, this is demonstrated chapter 3, listing 8, the one called metric coverage. Yeah, so that's just a useful summary, and it shows what we've accomplished so far in the previous stream. So I have 25 different events that the customers use on this simulated data platform. And they can do searches, and you can see they can create, edit, and delete searches. They also win opportunities because this is a simulated customer relationship management system. So you kind of got to get with the CRM lingo, the sales lingo. They always say, it's winning opportunities, winning and losing. And it's all about the opportunities. And advancing stage is when your opportunity advances to a next stage. So opportunities go from S0, which means the potential customer just contacted you. Then the exact number of stages and what they mean is actually different at a lot of different companies. But let's see, we can also have competitors, disqualifying opportunities, losing opportunities. That's the opposite of winning an opportunity. That means a competitor took the opportunity. You can give quotes, add contacts, leads, lists, all these things. This is all simulated in the CRM data simulation. You, Dato Jr., like your screen handle there. And thank you for being with me. Welcome. And by the way, Lasku and Dato Jr., where are you? I always like to hear, where are you watching from? Hopefully in some exotic part of the world. And also, if you don't mind mentioning, if you saw about this stream on social media, which social media do you actually use nowadays? New Jersey. Cool. I'm actually from Brooklyn. I'm originally a Brooklyn boy from the East Coast, though I've kind of moved to California at this point, pretty much permanently. Although I still got lots of family back east, and my first cousin lives in Jersey. And you're on Mastodon. Cool. I am mainly a Mastodon fan nowadays. I do check out the other social media networks just to see, what's happening. But I do spend, honestly, most of my time on Mastodon. All right, let me keep moving. So we went over the metric coverage query. Now I have to do this intro for everyone who doesn't know. This is my standard intro. What is churn? In case you're just checking out this stream for the first time. What is churn? Churn is when subscribers, customers, or users, they quit which could mean, you could say unsubscribe, unfollow, cancel. It depends what context you're in. The origin of the term is from the churn rate, which means the percentage of customers that drop out in some time period. And I already did a long stream about calculating churn rates. So if you're interested in that subject, go back a few streams, and there's a lot about calculating churn rates. But churn is also now a verb. You can say the customer churned, or even I'm going to churn from Hulu because I'm sick of all their shows. And it's also a noun. If you're in the business, you'll say, make a report of the churns, or a churn report, which means, the churns are a noun in that sentence. And you can even describe a customer as a churn and be like, that customer's a churn. They told me they're canceling. They are a churn. But anyway, that's all subscription lingo. Oh, so let's see. Dato Jr. You're in Chicago. Nice. Saw the stream a couple of months ago on Twitch. Interesting. Previously Night Toad. That sounds familiar. Previous username maybe. Anyway, what is fighting churn with data? That's the book that I wrote. It's based on my experience as chief data scientist at Zora. Although I'm still in this business, I'm no longer at Zora. I'm now at a company called OfferFit, which is doing a proactive AI-based customer lifecycle management tool. But let's not go there. Anyway, this is where you can get the book. And definitely, if you want to get the book, use the discount code. I think it's actually good for all Manning products. So, but, have at it. Use the discount code. They'll know that you saw on this stream. So what is data-driven churn reduction? That's what fighting churn with data really means. You can improve your product and make feature and content that customers love by using your data to find out what they love. You can do marketing, targeted engagement campaigns with your customers and use your data to find out, what they're interested in, what they would find engaging. And also customer success, which is like proactive customer support. You reach out to customers when you think they need help, and you can use your data to figure out which customers need help. And also your sales and pricing. You can right size your plans, meaning get customers on different tiers or levels of your plans, and use your data to find out what tier customers should be on. I say here no discounts because that's kind of the worst way to reduce churn, but targeted discounts with a machine learning model can be effective as long as you're doing it carefully. Okay, that's the intro on data-driven churn reduction. Why do you want to learn about this? Well, I say churn, it's the most common data science problem in the world because every company now wants recurring revenue, and that means they have a churn problem. If you want recurring revenue, you have churn. And so it's the most common data science problem in the world, but there are some special things about it, a little bit different. And this stream will definitely, or my book, whatever, will definitely get you up on all that. And this is also a cool way to learn data science from foundations, because in the book, in the stream, I'm going from raw data all the way to the end result of churn fighting, machine learning, and interventions. All right, today's stream, what are we doing? First, I'm going to do total value features, which is a new subject and a brief extension from last time. And then the title of the stream was SaaS and subscription features. So I'm going to talk about, SaaS and subscription features. So that'll be the second part of the stream. Let's see. All right, where is the data? What is this data that I'm talking about? It's all simulated because I don't have real company churn data that I can share and live stream about. So one of my major accomplishments in making this book was making a simulation where you can generate very realistic data for the learning the techniques and discovering things in a safe simulated data set. So the CRM simulation is a recent development I made, which is much more detailed and realistic. The book was published with a social network simulation. So now let's get back to looking at some data. I hate spending too long talking without looking at data. So these are the two data sets. We've previously generated these. And in the data set, you can see there's a table of accounts. This is what is in the account table. Whoops, I want to increase the size on these guys. Okay, so you can see that every customer has a channel, a date when they started. It's called date of birth, but in the simulation, it really represents the age of the business because a customer relationship management tool is B2B. So these are businesses, and these are the states where they reside in. Those will be used later. We also have subscriptions, which have different plans. There's a standard monthly plan, which allows 25 users. The basic plan allows 10 users. And there's a lot of variety of the users. You also might notice there's a meetings add-on plan. Remember how not all customers had the meetings event? That's because meetings is an add-on. So there's a lot of variety of plans and add-ons here. And in contrast, in the old simulation, if I go back to the book simulation, you'll notice that every plan is the same. Every product is the basic product, and every customer pays $10 MRR. So it's a lot more interesting in the CRM simulation, and we can now practice and demonstrate a lot of techniques. This is why I said this is going to be the first live stream demonstrating certain techniques from the book, because in the book, the data had no interesting subscription data to demonstrate this code with. So I didn't really completely demonstrate it. So the other stuff in the database was the events. There's a lot of events. That is what customers do on the platform. Let's see how many. That looks like a big number. What do we got there? 90 million. And if I zoom in on one month and do an aggregate query, you can see that the events have the same types as those features that we were looking at in the previous metric summary query. So we basically summarized all these metrics, except there's one other thing about the events, which we didn't mention before. There's also a value. Let's add to this query the average value of the events and see what we got. Oops. Oh, it must be, I don't even know my own schema. Is it metric value? Column value does not exist. Metric value? No. Oh my God, how embarrassing. All right, let's go back and check. check the database. Let's see if I go to metric. What is it? It is metric underscore value. So what the heck did I do? Did I have a typo there? Anyone see it? Average metric. Oh, this is event value. That's the thing. First of all, I was looking at the wrong table. Notice that? Okay, let's try it now. Okay, this is working. It was the event value column. So what we can see here is a very long decimal place. I hate it when they do this. Most databases do that. They just give you ridiculous precision. So let's look now really at the event value. So win opportunity has an average value of 3,071, and that means the dollar value of the opportunity that was won. And there should be another one. Win opportunity, where's lose opportunity? Should also have a value. There it is. Lose opportunity also has a value, which by coincidence, the average values are almost identical. So these are the two events that actually have a dollar value associated with them. I suppose I could have added the value and disqualify opportunity as well. That's going to be a future improvement in the simulation. But these are representing the dollar values of those events. So what's the dollar value of the account that you won? Now that is directly relevant to the first thing that we're going to dive into, because I said we're going to start with total value features. So let's just get into it. So in the last stream, we looked at event count features. I'm just going to have a little coffee while I talk. Without coffee, I think there would be no live streaming or no software or really any science and technology. But that's another rant I won't go on now. Hey, Echo Sandrhymes. What SQL is this? This was Postgres. Yeah, I'm doing everything on Postgres, which, why? Because it's a nice open source database and I got used to it at my last job. So that's why it's Postgres. But nice to have you with us, Echo Sandrhymes, and I love your user handle. So the basic features we calculated in the previous stream were counts, where we would having user 1 and user 2 have logins at different points in time, but we want to make those users comparable. So we group them by month. Oh, and Jay Aliska, I like your coffee drinking emoji or whatever that is. I think it's coffee. Kind of hard to see on my screen here. But yes, cheers. So these are the basic SQL features we did last stream. And those we can go to the SQL really quick. This was with a simple group by where we did count star on the event as the metric value, and we limited it to one event and to a certain range in time. So the new technique we're going to do now is actually just slightly more advanced version of that, and it's an event summation feature where suppose that your events have a value associated with them. And here I'm using dollar values as an example, but it could also be things like the duration of a streaming session. Or the count of, well, no, we're doing counts as separate events. But definitely the top things that come to mind are dollar values of transactions and duration of streaming sessions are common values for events. So if every event has a value, then we're not just going to count them, we're going to sum them. So this is really pretty basic. We just do group by the months, or here I always use 4-week periods because of the weekly cyclicality of customer behavior. And we sum the dollar values instead of simply counting the events. So this is a pretty basic enhancement. I already did this. We looked at the data and I showed you that in the CRM simulation, we have two events with dollar value, win opportunity and lose opportunity. That was back in this query here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the events. So there's a listing from the book that demonstrated this, listing 3.5. And this is one of those listings that I never demonstrated in the book and I never demonstrated on a live stream before because I didn't have the right data to demonstrate it on. So let's look at listing 3.5. As you can imagine, this is a simple extension of the previous calculation where we're just doing the sum of the field that we're going to sum instead of just doing count star. We're still going to specify one event and a certain date range here using 28-day date ranges. So let us go. Now I'm going to actually do the usual trick. I need to actually make a new version here. So this is going to be 3.5 metric sum value. I don't know what to call it. And this was chapter 3, listing 5. And we will first run this for demonstration purposes. It's actually not that exciting, but it is exciting for me because like I said, this is something I couldn't demonstrate with the book, but now with the new data set, I can. Okay, so this was for each account, for one account, we have the metric at different dates, because these are, we track, this was covered in the last stream, that we actually calculate the metric for multiple periods in time. Let's actually scroll up and we can look at it. So we make a date series of different times when we want to calculate the metric, and then we calculate that summation for each overlapping date window. And you can see this account, it had 71,001 opportunities within the last 4 weeks. Then it increased to 92,000 on 2022-03-07, and then they must have won a bunch of more opportunities. So you see how the metric changed over time for this one account. Now the next thing we're going to do is actually insert this into our database so that we can use it later for our machine learning. And this is actually a new listing. You can actually, that's not in the book. You can see I jump up to 318 here. That's because in the book, I never actually inserted this into the database because this was not interesting enough to insert. So now I've got a new version which will do the insert here, which is basically the same. I've just added an insert into the metric table, the results, the tuple from the account ID, metric time, the metric name ID, and the metric value. And then I'm also going to put the metric name into the metric name table because this uses like a normalized structure where the names are not repeated in the metric table. So now I actually want to run this one. This is 318. Let's actually make a duplicate here. This will be 318, insert metric sum value. And for this one, I'm actually going to do 2 versions, version 1 and version 2. I'm pretty sure those are the right versions. I can double check that really quick by going to my listings configuration. So here, let's see, listing 18, basic parameters, and I've got a version 1 for win opportunity as the event to measure, and version 2 for lose opportunity. This is like the guts of the fighting churn with data simulation and code demonstration system. There's like this configuration which lists all these things. But it's good to demonstrate how this works. So anyway, let's try it. If I've done everything right, we will now insert the metrics into the database. Okay, it is not throwing an error, so I think it's working. Oh, and I did not set to do them in parallel. I could have done that, but I guess we'll just have to wait a minute, and this will probably finish fairly quickly. But when it's done, we will be able to, we'll have saved all those calculations of the total of the metrics, the total of the won opportunities and the lost opportunity values. And it looks like it's going to work for a few minutes. So I will actually just let that run. And if no one else has any questions or anything they want to talk about, we can start moving on to the next subject. Because that's basically it for the first one. Here, what I'll do is what I want to do is make my slide deck a little bit smaller. Here we go. Then we can kind of watch in the bottom there. Whoops. I want to watch, like I said, I'm going to watch in the bottom for when these other results complete. But next we're going to talk about subscription-based features. So these are features for machine learning or churn analysis, but they're actually based on subscriptions and not on the customer events that were in the event table. So recall, if you just joined, we also have a table of the subscriptions that customers have. Let's go back to that query. We'll just do a quick select star from subscription. So subscriptions, actually, they have a name, they have a start date and an end date, and then they have several other features. One is called the MRR, and you can't see the tiny text at the top, at the heading. I don't know how to make that text bigger. I can make this text bigger, but it doesn't really make the column headings bigger. Anyway, this is the MRR, which means monthly recurring revenue. It's a very important thing because it's how much the customers pay. The other subscription data is a quantity of some units. So subscriptions can many times give a certain allowance of something on a SaaS product. So it's very common in more advanced SaaS products that you might have a limit of how many downloads you can do a month or how many users. If it's an enterprise product, you'll almost always have a limit of how many users you've signed up for. There's also a billing period here. Looks like we've only got billing period 1 in this query. And there's also discounts. You see some of these people managed to get a 5% discount. So that's all in the subscription database. Now what we have to do is summarize this for our features because the customer can change over time. So let's look actually at the MRR feature calculation. Actually, let's also go back and see if, the total metric calculation, which I ran before, has now finished without throwing any errors. So I'm going to assume that it's okay. We'll check on that later. We'll do a little quality assurance on all the metrics later. But first, let's go over the MRR or monthly recurring revenue calculation. The thing is, customers can change over time. Like a customer can start out with a price of 19, that's their MRR on their subscription, and then they might churn and have no subscription for a while, and then their MRR would go to 0. So this on the bottom row is the MRR of their metric that you calculate. So they started with 19, then they go to 0. Then they sign up again, 19 MRR. Then they might get an add-on. So remember, in our simulated subscription database, we have add-ons for meetings. Scheduling meetings in the product is an add-on. And there's also, there's another add-on somewhere. Search Unlimited, that's another add-on. So you start out with a limited number of searches and then you can get extra searches. So let's see. So anyway, so MRR can change over time. If they get the add-on, then they go up to 33. Then they might upgrade and they go up to 43. And then the add-on expires and they go back down. So that's why you treat MRR, the amount customers pay, as a feature or metric of the customer, which you track over time. As you can imagine, the calculation is going to be pretty similar. So there is a version of this in the book, but it wasn't very interesting in the book because in the book, everyone had the same MRR. So here you can see the sequel is just to sum the MRR, and you do an aggregation because the customer could have multiple plans. If they have add-ons, the MRR is not just their one plan, it's all their plans. So, and you pick just like in calculating an event-based feature, you do a series of dates that you're going to make the calculation for. And later on, we'll pick out the right one for the machine learning problem that we do. But right now, we're just going to calculate them in a sequence of evenly spaced dates 1 week apart. And we take we consider a subscription active if the start date is less than the date of our metric calculation. And the end date should be greater than the metric calculation date, or in some subscription systems you have a null end date if the customer never ends, or if they haven't canceled or churned yet. So let's do this. This is the demonstration of the MRR SQL. Let's see. I'll just keep on making copies of things. I'll have a million of these by the end, but this is the MRR SQL, it was chapter 3, I said listing 14. I put a limit here just to make it quicker for this is just the demonstration. So here we go. Account ID, they have a 600 MRR. Account 64, account 824, they have a 65 MRR. Account 741, etc. So every customer can have a different MRR value. I can actually show you the complete plan list if you're curious. It should have been saved. Do you see? Actually, no, I actually don't see it. Should have been saved here when I ran the simulation. All right, I'm not going to worry about that now. I could show you the complete plan list, let's see, by looking in the simulation configuration. If we go to CRM 6 and look at the plans, here you can see all the different plans that they can have, and then there's also the different add-ons that are possible. So that's a summary of what's possible. The calculation calculates what actually occurred for those customers in the database. And now listing 317, which is another listing that's not in the book, is actually the one which saves this into the database. So this just, like in the other case, it just adds an insert statement and also an insert for the name of the metric name table, to the calculation. So let's run that. Let's see, 314, and this is 317 MRR insert. I'm pretty sure this one just has one version. So now we're going to run a query that looks very much like the one we just did, but with the insert statement. And that finished already. You're going to see that to calculate the subscription features is actually very quick. Why? Because there's a lot fewer subscriptions than events. If you recall back at the beginning of the stream when we checked out the database, I did a count star from event, and it was like, I think 90 million if I'm counting the places right. If we do count star from subscription, it's like the only thing I haven't done yet, you'll see there are only 70,000 subscriptions. So about 1,000 times fewer subscriptions than events, which actually makes sense. So let's see. Next up, we're going to do a bunch of other subscription-based features on all the different aspects of the subscription that you might be interested in, knowing. And we do all of these as customer metrics which change over time, and then they become features because these could all change over time for one customer. So the next one will be the product use purchased. And for this one, I don't really have, the logic is basically the same, so I don't have another cute diagram. But if we go to listing 315, which is another new one, not from the book, you'll see that now instead of summing the MRR, we sum the quantity field from the subscription table, but you've got an extra where clause that you have to have units equal the unit, because going back to the subscription table, you can see that there's a few different units. The basic plan has users as a unit. I mean, the base plans, I should say. Basic refers to a specific plan, but the base plan in a subscription product means like the plan you have to have, not the add-ons. So the add-ons have other units of search or meetings in this simulation. So let's see. So where were we? I was going to actually, I think, demonstrate 315, which is the sum of the quantity. Let's see. Again, I'll just make another simple copy. This is the quantity of users metric. 315. Probably just demonstrate the insert versions because that's what's really more interesting. So you can see each account just has one of the standard numbers of users, like 5, 10, 25, 50. I think the maximum is like 500 or something like that. Or maybe it's 100 users. So those are just the standard values. And so then there's another listing. What did I say it was? checking myself, 318, which will be the insert. Now I'm just like editing this one rather than making a new one. All right, so now it's basically doing the same thing, but we're doing it for the entire table, and we're summing it and inserting it. And I'm not sure if I have these set up for the users and the other units, because really I do want to have these for all of the different data types that we have units for. Let's see. Let's close up these. We don't need this anymore. I already did the MRR, so I can close up those. Let's see. If we do the unit quantity insert, it looks like I've only set it up for users. So maybe later in the stream, if I get through everything else, we'll go back and add the unit and quantity for meetings and search. But so for right now, let's go on to the next one. So billing frequency is actually another property of the subscription. It's the payment period, how often the customer has to make their payment. And the price actually depends on how often the customer must make the payment. I don't have this very well demonstrated. We could write like a SQL do I have any group buys on subscription that will demonstrate this? No. Let's see. Well, let's go back to, I guess the plan data might be the easiest way to show this. I didn't really plan this out, so bear with me here. So if we go back to the plans, what you can see is that there's different billing periods. There's monthly, biannual, and annual. And you can see that the price gets less if you go to a longer period. And that's what most subscriptions do. If you get the monthly plan, you pay $100. If you get the biannual plan, they'll let you go for $95. And these are all quoted in MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue. So even though the plan only has you pay twice a year or even once a year, for which you pay $90, it's all quoted in terms of MRR because it's kind of like the most basic unit. So in SaaS, you generally quote things in MRR, even when some people are on 12-month plans. Okay, so that's enough background. So the billing frequency, this time it's another similar query. So we're kind of like I realize this is now kind of like grinding through a lot of similar queries here, but that is the nature of the business, and I wanted to hit everything. So in this case, we just select, it's actually, I chose the minimum billing period month. In case the customer could conceivably have plans that pay at different periods. Actually, not in my simulation. In my simulation, I apply a rational rule that all the plans, if they have add-ons, they're going to pay at the same period as the base plan. In real subscription services, you will actually find that's not always the case. And you can have a customer who has one thing where they pay every 12 months and another thing where they pay every 3 months, and it actually drives the billing department mad. It's why people use products like Zuora, which was the subscription billing product where I worked. But here I choose the minimum, and the rationale there is that a customer who has to pay is going to behave. How often you pay affects your behavior because it makes you aware of the product more often. And it's also related to how often you can churn by missing a payment. So we choose the minimum billing period. And let's go on and run the calculation. Let's see, I think I'm just going to go straight to the insert version, which is 320. So here we're going to insert into the metric table the minimum billing period and also the name for billing period. So let's just duplicate this one. We're going to go 320 insert billing period metric. Oops. Okay. This one also should be pretty quick because it's running against that subscription table, not as big as the event table. All right, so that does our billing period. And what's left? Discounts. Okay, another thing that you have in the real world of subscriptions is discounts. And in the simulation of the CRM, the customer relationship management service, there are also discounts. So let's look at discounts. Here, listing 321, this is going to be another very simple, same basic query. We select from the subscription table, joining on a date series by the subscription start and end date, and then we're going to take the average discount value as the metric. All right, so now I'll make a new one. This is, what was it, 321, insert discount metric. Okay, was 21, right? All right, so let's run that one. Now, this might be a good time, I think, to stop and check all the work that I've done. Did I include that here? Actually, here it says I'm going to go to the account tenure next. What I'm going to do right now, actually, is jump back to the first query we did, which was the metric coverage or metric summarization query. So this query, as you may recall, if you were on this stream at the beginning, it's going to calculate a bunch of aggregates on the metric table. I also have an account query where I count the number of accounts, which I take from my subscription table. So the subscription tells you who has a valid subscription at that time, and then this calculates all of the count that have the metric and what percent of customers have the metric. So I call this metric coverage, and I'm saving this to a local file. It looks like it's done. Now, I already had this file open, so I'm gonna have to close this. Now, before I close it, no, we had up to 26 for canceling meetings before. Let's look at the new version now and check my work, check our work that we've been doing all this morning. All right, here is the new result of the metric coverage query, and I do see some more rows in it, which is good. I have the sum of won and lost opportunities that we calculated earlier, MRR, billing period, discount, and let me look at, just spot check these average values. Let me make sure these all look same. And one thing you notice about the subscription metrics, the key subscription metrics, everyone has one. Everyone has a measurement for discount, billing period, and MRR, which you actually can't say of any other customer metric in the table. You will also notice that the values are very different. Whoops. On the ones that are the won and lost opportunity values, these were our sums. So these are much bigger numbers, and we can actually even, let's call these the dollars that they are. So this is the average value for winning opportunities is 230,000 a month, and losing opportunities 158,000 a month. So these companies, we can already observe, they tend to win more than they lose. So good for them. My simulation contains healthy companies. The average MRR value is 942. The maximum is 2,500. The maximum discount is 0.5. The average, I guess I need to make this one a percent. The average discount is 8%. Yeah, we're winners. Well, it's not us actually. It's the simulated customers in the CRM database. Now remember, who are we? We are the data scientist at the CRM company. So we're the data scientist at the company that sells the customer relationship management tool. So now we can see that our simulated customers are winners. Yeah, you can take credit for it. Although the truth is you really feel like that, because I mean, this is based on my own experience. At Zuora, we were a subscription billing company. Not a CRM, but we would also make a metric or measurement of how much money do our customers make on our product, and how fast is their revenue growing. And we took a lot of pride when we saw that our customers, number one, made a lot of money and they were fast growing. So you do kind of have that feeling when you see your customers crushing it. And there's a good reason also, because if your customers aren't crushing it, they're going to churn. That's the other problem. Who's going to want to pay, when they're losing money? All right. Well, anyway, that's a good checkup on everything we've been doing so far. Everything looks so far so good. The last subscription-based feature is account tenure. I call that, I use that for their time as a customer, and there's not a standard term for this in the industry. You could call it the customer age, but if the customer actually has an age, like their own age, then it's confusing. So that's why I use the tenure. And a simple example of a tenure calculation is it's just a linearly increasing function of the amount of time they've been subscribed. And actually the thing to note here is that it's like a clock that resets each time they churn and re-sign up. So if they sign up on January 1st, it goes up until they churn on February 12th. And then in this intermediate period, they really have no tenure because they are not customers. I mean, you could use the last value or something. But anyway, after they start subscription 2, this can start increasing again. So this is actually a much more complicated subscription metric. And the reason it's extra complicated is because subscription data in real subscriptions is messy. You have weird stuff, like weird gaps where you might not consider it a churn. So for example, what happens if a customer, they don't make their payment and so you shut them off? That's a churn. But they might make their payment like 3 days later, and then you'll be like, okay, start your subscription up again. It wasn't really a churn because it was only like a short gap, which is considered an allowed gap. So they have their first subscription and then they might churn and have a large gap. And then if you were measuring the account tenure at this time, the observation time, you would count back to the beginning of subscription 2, because you would say, okay, they just didn't pay me for a week there. I'm not going to count that, because it was essentially their experience as a customer is like it was one continuous period. You might make a separate metric of the fact that they went into collections for a week, but that's kind of a separate topic. So messy subscriptions make the account tenure calculation much harder. And that's why I developed, and this is covered in detail in the book, it's a recursive tenure calculation where I'll show you the SQL. This is all done in SQL, if you believe it. The algorithm goes backwards in time, starting from the most recent subscription. It finds the current subscription, and that's the initialization. And then the algorithm goes through a recursion back in time until it finds the earliest subscription, where there can be an allowed gap. So it starts out by initializing at subscription 5, and then in recursive steps, it walks back subscription 4, 3, 2 by their start date. And then it drops out of the recursion and finds the minimum start date of the earliest found subscription. Now you're probably thinking wait, I thought we do this with SQL, and that sounds like a logic that you would do in a for loop, right? Well, there is a very cool trick that it's supported by modern SQL systems, including recent versions of Postgres, and I believe, I'm not sure, but recent versions of MySQL support what's called a recursive common table expression. Now you already know what common table expressions are here, because we've been looking at them all day. Every one of these SQLs has some kind of common table expression. That's not a very interesting common table expression. The metric summary query was a more interesting example of a common table expression. This is the common table expression called account count, where I'm counting the number of accounts. Duh. Anyway, so common table expression is like the modern version of a subquery. And the thing about common table expressions as compared to subqueries is they're the same thing, they're just easier to read, really. But now a recursive common table expression is special because it performs a loop logic that goes as follows. You declare it like with recursive, then some name. You have an initial query, so you do some initial selection from your database. Then, also as part of the syntax, you write union, and then you make another select query that will insert additional rows into the result using both the previous result and back out to your schema. You can select from the schema and the recursive result, and it will insert more rows until no more rows are added. And then you do a final result by selecting from the recursive query. Now you might be thinking, oh, I can kind of see how that crazy account tenure calculation could be done. Now, fun fact about recursive common table expressions. Yeah, many people don't know you can do this, but the fun fact is, do you know what Turing completeness is? Honestly, I barely remember. I did a computer science degree many, many years ago, and back then I think I learned what Turing complete means, but it means that you can solve basically any computer science problem. Yeah, it means you can calculate pretty much anything that can be calculated. And with recursive common table expressions, SQL is Turing complete. It means that with recursive CTEs, you can calculate anything in SQL. Okay, I remembered it right. But it is also, you can Google this to check me. With recursive CTEs, you can calculate anything in SQL. So never let anyone say, oh, we have to download the data to do a calculation in Python, because we couldn't possibly do this calculation in SQL. Because with recursive CTEs, you can do any calculation possible in SQL, which I think is very cool. All right, let's look at the recursive CTE for the, oh, this is my little ninja. Okay, that's I call this the data ninja because this is a data ninja move. He kind of looks like a ninja with a 1 and 0. So, yep. Excel is Turing complete. Nice. Magic the Gathering is Turing complete. Oh, no way. How is Magic the Gathering Turing complete? Now, I believe you on Excel, although I'd have to think about it a little bit. Well, especially, do you know that Excel, you can now put Python in your cells? So then it's like a no-brainer. But you mean Excel functions are Turing complete. I don't know enough about Magic the Gathering, but I am definitely going to look this up after this stream and see why, Well, let's see. So I was saying about like the data ninja guy. He's like my one little channel emote too. You can barely even see him too. Magic the Gathering had some weird cards. Okay, well I'm not doubting it. I totally believe you that Magic the Gathering is Turing complete. Now here's my question: is Minecraft Turing complete? I think it is, because you can make a redstone computer. But I'm gonna have to look up if Minecraft redstone computers are Turing complete. I think they must be, because it's a computer. Anyway, let me carry on and talk. Yeah, you can make a transistor. So if you can make a transistor, then you can make a computer. Anyway, so what we do for the recursive CTE for account tenure, I've basically filled in how the query is going to look. So we make the recursive CTE, I call it the earliest start date, and that means earliest start of any subscription. Now my final query is going to be select the current date today minus the minimum start date from my earliest start date. So this is going to be my account tenure. Today minus the earliest start date from my recursive CTE. And the initialization query is select the account ID and the start date of the current subscription. I just kind of say where subscription is active is my quick summary to make this concise. So that's the starting query. Then it selects additional subscriptions where the subscription is earlier, basically. So that's the where condition. So operating with this initialization, and then it runs this next query repeatedly until no more rows are added, we will get every subscription the customer has that's a little bit earlier, but they haven't churned. And that's basically it. So again, there's my friendly, cute data ninja guy. I have to put them in the chat to show that I did actually make like an emote for this channel. All right, so now let's actually look at the account tenure SQL in all of its horrible glory. That's listing 312. So this is actually the demonstration version of it. And the demonstration version prints some more of the results. So maybe I should run it first so that we can see some of the results. Let's see. So we were going to do, this is like 312 tenure demo. 312. So as I said, we have this first selection, which selects the currently active subscription on the calculation date. So I'm right now running the calculation just for one date, but if you've seen the previous queries, you know where this is going. It's going to go to a multi-date calculation of tenure at different points in time. So this is the initialization, just the minimum start date of a currently active subscription. Then my union, my recursive query inserts more subscriptions where the start date on the earlier subscription has to be less, and the end date has to be greater than start date minus 31. So it has to be starting a little bit earlier. And then the final query is just selecting out the results. So here you can see for different accounts what was their earliest start date and how many days tenure they have in the simulation. It fills in the date selected to demonstrate was 2023, 12/25, a few weeks ago. The simulation runs through the end of 2023, so it's kind of like in the recent past right now. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. So this is how it's found the earliest start date, and then it calculates the subscriber tenure in days for everyone. Now there's another one for an insert of account tenure, which is also not, no, this was in the book. Yeah, this was in the book. I enhanced it by adding the metric name insert to the end of the query. That's like a later enhancement. So yeah, let's run the insert of the account tenure. Here, I'll actually duplicate this one, say 313 tenure insert. And this one should take a little bit longer to calculate than the other subscription metrics. I don't know exactly how much longer, but your intuition is that it's doing a lot more work, right? So, because it has to, do this recursive calculation. Oh, see, it's already done though. So that didn't even take too long. So I think that was mostly what we needed to do. Oh, this is actually going to the summary. Well, let's actually not go to the summary yet. First, let's do a summary of what we just accomplished by rechecking our metric coverage query. We'll see that in a minute. And then I'm actually going to do a little bit of live hacking to add the additional unit quantity metrics, because the truth is having all of the listings set up for the new CRM simulation is actually a work in progress. As you might have seen if you watched the last stream, I was entering the configurations to create the metrics, and we'll just do a little bit more of that today in a minute. But first I need to close this so I can reopen it. Excel is a pretty good way to open and look at CSVs, except that it doesn't let you it doesn't update. It doesn't play nice when you open a new file with the same name. So let's see. Where is our account tenure? This is what I'm looking for. Did I calculate an account tenure? Actually, I don't see it. Uh-oh. All right, I thought I was going to have a victory lap, but now I'm not really sure. Did I not actually calculate the account tenure insert? So I inserted the metric name. I thought I ran that. Was anyone watching? Did that work? Tenure insert. Did I actually run this, or did I run the wrong one? Listing 313. Curious. One thing I can do that will be very quick will be, let's just select star from metric name. Let's see if account tenure is in there. I wonder if I had some error. Was anyone watching? So it doesn't look like I inserted anything, frankly. Discount, bill period, MRR. All right, well, I think I found a bug in the configuration for the CRM simulation. Or did I just not run this? I'm gonna try it. Well, first, I'm gonna check the configuration first. Let's look before I leap. It was, clean this up a little bit. We'll check chapter 3, listing 13, account tenure insert. It should have inserted new metric ID 0. Oh, I think that's the problem. I think I had an error. Okay, I wasn't paying attention, and I had an error because I was trying to use, I told you I'm developing the CRM 6 listings as I go. So now I'm gonna fix my error. This is why we check. So this is everything I've got, and I already used ID 0. I must have changed that around. So 29, 30. It looks like I should go with 31. Doesn't seem to be used for anything. So I'm gonna go back to this, change this to 31. And now let's try rerunning it. And it just goes to show, I should have paid more close attention to the result. I mean, I was just like, oh, I ran it. Did anyone, oh, you're watching. Did you see it? Did anyone watch and see the error? It didn't seem to give an error when I ran it last time. Okay, so here it says it worked. It used my new metric ID 31. Now let's do recheck this. Here's metric name. 31 is now my account tenure. Okay, now let's close this Excel file and retry the metric coverage query. Make sure it really worked. Yeah, well, I got you. I'm not holding you to it to watch me and catch all my errors, you know. Making errors on live stream and coding is part of the fun. I would actually say it enhances your job interview ability and your pair programming confidence, because if I'm willing to get out here and just make dumb mistakes that are recorded for all posterity in the live stream, you know, yeah, you learn to let it go. All right, now let's check if this worked. And it's looking better. Okay, so this worked. As we can see, now I've got a row down here, row 30 for account tenure, and we can see that the average value is 294 and the maximum is 723. So that's in days. So like I said, the simulation starts on the beginning of 2022 and it runs through the end of 2023. So that's why the maximum is just about 2 years. Hey, Echoes and Rhymes. Making mistakes gives the viewer confidence, actually, because it shows that everybody struggles at times. Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, don't think that someone like me who's written a book just gets things right all the time, because there's always lots of mistakes. But yeah, so let's make some more mistakes by entering the new unit and quantity metrics. So I want to do I don't think I've done them. So let's see. So I want to do the insert version, and now I need to make, how do I do different, I have to remind myself actually how I do different versions. A good example, this is me again demonstrating the real ugliness of doing this is that I want different versions, but where is, I can use this is what I need to do. I need to use the sum metric insert as an example. I'm going to steal these just to put into my unit quantity insert. And now what I need to do is change the parameters in these. I'm going to keep the mode parameters and the metric ID parameters. I'm going to have to decide what to use for those. Let's just put in some mistakes. Z27016. Yeah, hey. That's cool. Just please don't be a spam bot. I had to ban a spam bot before the stream started. I don't know if any of you, like when I first went live, there was like some spam bot came on and I had to ban them before I even went live. So, okay, so now I need units. I need units for both of these. User. Okay, now I have to go back and remind myself what were my units. And we can do that by double checking the subscription database. So I had search is one of them, and I think I can type that without copy pasting. Search, and I think the other one is meeting. Oh, it's schedule meetings. Schedule_meeting. I'll copy paste that one. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is pick my metric IDs for this. Actually, you know what? I should make this version 2 and this version 3. It's just a little trick for when I do these. Eventually, I'm going to want to run all these together with a multi-version command. So I'm going to duplicate the users as version 1. That's kind of like my standard. No, I already came on your stream. I don't remember when. Yeah, I sort of remember Z270F6. And I was wondering if that's like hexadecimal for something or no, because there's no Z's in hexadecimal. Anyway, the last thing I need to do here is come up with new metric IDs for the schedule meeting and search values. And I can look in here. This will show me all the metric IDs that I've used up. I guess I should just go to like 33 and 34 to keep it simple. Whoops, got to go back here. So this will be 33 and this will be 34. And I think that's really it. That should be all I need to do to calculate these new metrics. So let me go back to my unit quantity. Let's see. This is insert quantity. I'm just gonna say insert quantity metrics, and now I'm gonna pop in version 2 and 3. I think that should be all I need to do, right? Version 2 and 3. Wait, but this was actually listing 19. Wait. Oh, I was on the wrong one. All right, well, I'm just going to change what this refers to. Okay, that was my old sum metric insert. Whoops. All right, I think I'm finally good for everyone who's actually watching. if that wasn't too fast. Let's see if this does the meetings. Oh, shit. I actually screwed it up. What happened here? Oh, it looks like I need a semicolon. How did I lose that semicolon? Did the users insert worked? Now I'm actually thinking the users insert didn't work. Because now this worked. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when I did the users also. Shoot, man. That makes 2 screw-ups today. Well, this supposedly said it works. So let's check by doing the favorite metric coverage query. And then we'll see if the users actually worked. Okay, so if you're French, this is like late night TV. Is it like, what time is it in France? 21, 22? All right, so here's my new metric coverage, which should have the new metrics. Okay, so we have the quantity schedules and the quantity of searches. Okay. And we actually never got the quantity of users. So now I'm actually pretty convinced that that one did not work. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Wow. Let's go back and try the quantity of users query, which should just be, I better check the, what ID was it supposed to use? That was supposed to be 32. Was there really no 32 here? Oh no, I used that for something else. Maybe that one, oh, maybe that's why it didn't work, because I was already using that ID. Okay, so quantity of users, geez, these are all scrambled up. I'm gonna have to like do another version of this where I get all these in the right order. But the quantity of users should be 35. It should be number 1. So now let's go back to, it was like insert quantity metric. Now we'll run version 1. And this should give us, finally, the last metric. Quantity of users as number 35, where the units equal users. Okay. All right, I think I finally got everything right. So that was a little, kind of a live demo of, working with the guts of the code demonstration system. I mean, it's meant to be an easy way to, demonstrate different code. But I actually use this for multiple different, as you can see, multiple different churn databases. So the same code will run on all different databases of customer data. You just have to like plug in the right names for your particular events and metrics. When I wrote the book, I had live customer data too. If you read in the book, I've got 3 accounts where there's where I had like the data. It was like Versature. Who was it again? I'm forgetting now. But I had 3 different customers where I did live code demos in the book. And they also all worked off of this format. All right, the last thing I need to do is rerun the metric coverage query to make sure. This is why, as I tell everyone who works in data science, for me, it's just past noon, so it's like 12 o'clock. I kind of stream at this time because I have a broad coverage of time when people can be awake. People in Europe are still awake, people in America are awake. Sometimes I even do get people in Hawaii and even like Australia watching. But what was I saying? I was just saying how you always have to check your work in data science. And I go through this like in my day job too. It's always like you run some backfill of features to calculate. We do work just like this in my day job, calculating features over time. And you always have to check and make sure it works. All right, so now we actually have quantity of users ranging from 5 to 100, average of 40. And we still have quantity of search and scheduled meeting. There's actually only one value. You kind of just when you get the add-on, you get a very high limit, which is just meant to be higher than anyone. It's meant to be effectively an infinite limit of these behaviors, which are otherwise limited on the product. All right, so I've got my 3 quantity metrics that we did today. We also did discount, billing period, MRR, account tenure, and the sum of the lost opportunities and the sum of the won opportunities. And the order is a little bit mixed up and crazy, but I'll fix that, sometime in the future. Yeah, so anyway, I think that was all I really had prepared for today. And I did a little extra by live hacking those metrics, which I had not prepared. So now, let's summarize. Fighting churn is about targeted interventions, including improving your product, engaging with customers, and supporting your customers. That's my standard summary. But what did we learn today? Events and subscriptions are the raw data that you get. And features that you're going to use for machine learning and data science analysis tasks can be calculated in a database with SQL. On the last stream, someone was asking me when would it be better to do this in Python? And I would say almost never. But I really think it's better to do this in SQL because it's much more scalable. It's all well and good in Python when you have 10,000 rows in your data set, but as soon as it's 1 million, you're going to be really sorry that you try to do your feature calculations in Python. Just downloading all that data to do the calculation is like a waste of time. It's much better to do it in what we call a data lakehouse. The really unrealistic thing about what I'm doing today is using Postgres. In a real application, you wouldn't do this in Postgres either. I just use Postgres because it's kind of easy to have locally, and it's a pretty good full-feature database. In my day job, we use Google BigQuery to do all of these kinds of similar calculations in the database. Postgres with millions, it's not that cool. So it's very unrealistic that I'm using Postgres, but for a small data set, it's fine. And it was convenient. But yeah, in my current company, we're on Google Cloud, so we use Postgres. My last company, we were an AWS shop, and there we were actually using Athena. And my other company, we used Snowflake. Actually, Snowflake was pretty sweet, though it's kind of expensive. Anyway, aggregate features summarize each customer's events. And it could be counts. And today we looked at sums that summarize events when there's a value. And I didn't do it today, but you could also, of course, have an average. You can have the min and the max. And those are more relevant for a streaming application. This is these were financial transactions. So here it makes more sense to use just the total dollar value. You could also do the average, but if you think about it, if you have the count and the total, then the average is just one divided by the other, so it doesn't really add more information for machine learning. Okay, we also looked at customer subscriptions that can be summarized with aggregations of subscription features. The simple ones are like MRR, unit, billing period, things like that. Right? I should have said the quantity of a given unit. And also the tenure calculation is a recursive common table expression to find the earliest start date, which everyone agrees was a pretty cool trick, I hope. And we learned that recursive common table expressions are Turing complete, as is Magic the Gathering and Minecraft. And what else was Turing complete that we said before? Excel. Excel's Turing complete. Although now you also have Python in Excel, which is like a cheat. All right, and as a reminder, this is mostly based off of the book, Fighting Churn with Data. If you're interested in getting it, definitely get 40% off using this coupon, or just check out the live streams, check out the code. You can pretty much learn it from all that too. Please follow me for updates about my work, like when my next stream is gonna be. And I have gone to using Linktree. Here, I can do a quick Linktree demo. Let's see. It's Linktree. Because the world is so multi-social, I used to just tell people to follow me on Twitter, but Twitter doesn't exist anymore. It's X, it just seems kind of shady nowadays. So I'm checking out all the social networks, just trying to find where I have the most fun and find the most people. So I am on Blue Sky. I am on Mastodon, where I probably do spend my most time, to be honest. Still on LinkedIn, although LinkedIn is a little bit, it's professional, it's safe for work, a little bit boring. I'm also on Threads. I will still post on Twitter occasionally, but I don't spend much time there. And of course, these are all my other links and stuff. So that's what Linktree is. Please follow me on the platform of your choice to keep in touch. What else can I say? Today's music was the Lo-Fi Chill Streams Safe channel on Spotify. I hope you don't all mind the music because I keep getting complaints on YouTube. I like the music because it just makes it more fun for me to be here, and I hope people like the music. I have ducking set on my mic so that it turns down whenever I'm talking, so hopefully no one has any trouble hearing me. But anyway, if you do hate the music, I don't know, just bitch about it on YouTube, and I'll probably still keep playing music during my stream because I'm just like that. All right, and thank you everyone who was here today. Oh, you would turn it down a bit more. Okay, thank you. Actually, I wish, I'll take that for next time. I should have asked at the beginning of the stream. It might mean that my settings aren't right, or I need to turn up the gain on my mic. Ooh, okay, now I'm worried. How bad was it? Well, anyway, thank you, Jay Holiska, for being here with me. Thank you, Echoes and Rhymes. I'm also going to thank some other people who followed me recently, especially those who had funny names. So when there were lyrics, it was slightly hard to focus on me. Oh, God. I feel really bad about that. Okay, fine, just minor advice. Okay, thank you, though, for the advice. I will definitely improve the ducking. Also, some thank yous to Chad Queen for following me. Also, a few other cool names who followed me is, thank you. Come on, it's not working. There it goes. Thrink, thank you for following me. And I'm actually not even sure what these other peoples are. So I'll just give some thank yous out there to coming up. Oh yeah, I also noticed my copyrights all say 2023. I actually don't even know if that matters, what year you put. But yeah, let's see. I am just not that professional with around 10% of total speaking volume. I'll try to figure that out and do a better job. Thank you both for the feedback, and I'm sorry if it was annoying. Let's see, what else? As I mentioned, you can get this all on demand on YouTube, although if you're watching this on Twitch, you probably don't care. Okay, thank you. You wouldn't worry about it. It's not that professional. Yeah, I suppose so. It's all pretty casual. But, I do want people to be able to hear me. It's meant to be educational content. It's not like a rave here. Oh, thank you. Okay, so my presentation is professional, even though the music is too loud. All right, next stream, I will announce I am aiming for Saturday, February 10th. As you know, I kind of go with the Saturdays because that's when I'm free. I got a day job during the week. And we are going to do machine learning data set creation with all of these sort of measurements of the customers that we've done so far. They're all stored in a database. Now, how are we actually going to do the data science and the machine learning? Thanks, Echoes and Rhymes. Love my demeanor. Okay, that's a big word, which I think means, that I'm a okay speaker. So thanks for that. I appreciate you. And yeah, so please join me on the next stream. It's going to be going through machine learning data set creation. We're going to create actually a data set to start doing some real machine learning and analytics. We'll be done with all this feature calculations. So thank you everyone who spent time with me here today, especially everyone who spoke up on the chat. So I know that I'm not just talking to myself. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. If you're in France, you've only got a few hours left to enjoy. If you're here with me on the West Coast, we've got the entire afternoon to, well, it's not such a nice day, honestly. California, pretty cloudy. And for us, it's cold, which doesn't really count as cold for the rest of the world. For us, it's actually not even that cold. It's 60 Fahrenheit, which I guess must be like 20 Celsius or something. All right, so bye everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to drop out. See you next time. Thank you for being here with me.